I'm not angry, I'm just a little bit disappointed, which is why I gotta chain up all of these albums in the basement and never listen to them ever again. I'm gonna go over all the most disappointing records of this year, okay? I've had my little heart broken by a bunch of bands out there, and I just can't stand for it. So today, I gotta tell everybody out there on the internet which albums broke my heart the most. Hey, how's it going? I'm the internet's most ruthless gatekeeper. My name is Dan Frampton, and this year I listened to hundreds of punk rock records, and that spans the entire spectrum, all right? All the way from acoustic emo, acoustic folk punk, all the way to the grindiest core out there, all right? There were hundreds and hundreds of records that went through these ears, and a handful of them really disappointed me because I had expectations maybe unfairly set so high that there was nothing that these bands could do that was actually gonna save them, okay? So the first band I want to talk about that broke my little pop punk heart is this record over here by Knucklepuck. Now, by all accounts, this is a good record. And before I talk about this record, I want to talk about my rating system. I work on a 2 thumbs rating system, and I was expecting to give this thing like a thumb and a half, maybe like a thumb and a quarter, you know, pretty high rating for a 2 thumb rating system. But what I ended up giving this record was only a single thumb. Since this single thumb is less than what I thought I was going to give it, it makes it disappointing. Is it still a good listen? Yeah, sure. It's not as good as this record right beside it over here by Pity Party, which is a much smaller band and went through a whole bunch of drama, so I'm not really going to get into that right now. But if you want to listen to something better than Knucklepuck, something that didn't break my heart, something that set me up for a successful listening experience, that would be this record over here by Pity Party. It's called Sick Sad World Survival Guide. But why Losing What We Love by Knucklepuck broke my heart so much is because this band has put out stellar material in the past, alright? And there are good songs on here. I mean, it's alright, but it's not really checking all the boxes, and there's not a whole lot of variety found throughout this entire thing. It's okay, it's whatever, it's a solid thumb, so it's pretty good. I mean, it's worth your time if you're into this kind of thing. Now, the next band I want to talk about that broke my heart is Fiddlehead over here. Alright, these guys are kind of like a hardcore supergroup that kind of do just like melodic hardcore now. Not really my kind of thing, but because these guys were so hyped up in the scene for so long, it is a supergroup. These guys are all in other bands like Have Heart, Big Contest, Basement Stand, and Nuclear Age, alright? So these guys coming together have the entire hardcore scene just buzzing, okay? And it's okay stuff, it's alright. I was expecting to give this thing at least 1 solid thumb. Bringing the second thumb into it, I wasn't really expecting to do, but I really was expecting to give it the full thumb, but I only ended up giving this thing 3/4 of a thumb, making it a disappointment. It's pretty okay, I guess. Like, it's pretty good, decent melodic hardcore if you're into pretty good, decent melodic hardcore. But if you want good melodic hardcore, just go back to last year, pull up that Praise record, All in a Dream, and you'll get this sound, but done really, really, really well. Alright, the next band that broke my little heart over here is Scow. Alright, these California hardcore rockers, you know, coming out from the Bay Area, just ripped me to shreds with their last record, How Flowers Grow. But this thing over here, Psychic Dance Routine, a little EP, got a little bit too melodic for me. Or at least the melody kind of struck me as odd when I first heard it, okay? Psychic Dance Routine, fully melodic song. Opening Night, mostly melodic. The title track, Psychic Dance Routine, really took me by surprise with just how much melody they were playing around with. Very 90s, very Garbage, like the band Garbage, Shirley Manson's Garbage, alright? So I'm getting very strong post-grunge vibes on this record, but there's also a whole lot of screaming and some hardcore elements. So as the months wore on, it has kind of wore me down a little bit. I do kind of appreciate this thing a little bit more than I did when I first heard it. It is going to open this band up to more people. It is going to alienate a part of the hardcore audience, but I think overall, Scow is a great band. They're a great kind of like figurehead for this style of hardcore in hardcore right now, so I think they belong at the top where they are right now. And I was expecting to give Scow's efforts 2 big old fat thumbs up, but I didn't even give this thing 1 thumb up. I gave this thing 3/4 of a thumb, making it a pretty big disappointment. Now, I don't want to talk about this next record. I don't want to put this record on this list. This band doesn't belong in a video like this. I love this band, but I have to talk about this Incendiary record, Change the Way You Think About Pain. Great album name, great album cover, still a great band, but this album is so boring. There is not a lot of musical ideas being explored here, just kind of like Rage Against the Machine-esque type stuff going on here, but done in a little bit more hardcore of a way, right? So I didn't find there to be a whole lot of variety. I didn't find there to be a whole lot of excitement going on here in this record, and I wanted to love it so much. I wanted to come on and give Incendiary's record at least a 1.5 thumbs, but I couldn't even give it a full thumb. This thing only got 3/4 of a thumb. Pretty big disappointment, if you ask me. Now, when it comes to folk punk, there is a very fine line you gotta walk between being super cringe and super awesome. All right, now the band HHHYYY was able to walk that line very delicately back in their early days, okay? But this record over here, Disposable Everything, talk about disposable everything. Yes, get away from me. There are some songs on here that maybe I might come back to in a couple of years to be like, oh, remember that cute little song? Like Candles of Love? Candles of Love. But it's not something I'm gonna be putting on to vibe with. I'm just gonna go back and be like, remember that time they did this weird thing? Candles of Love. So yeah, there is that. It's okay. He deals with a whole bunch of really personal problems on this record, just like you'd expect them to do. But their early stuff set a pretty high bar for this band back when they were Andrew Jackson Jihad. But this record only got a 1/2 thumb from me. It's pretty mid, if I'm being honest with you. Okay, you know we gotta do it. We gotta talk about this band over here. No big surprise. We're gonna be talking about Blink-182 one more time. Now, this is not the most disappointing record of the year. There are more disappointing records I have on this list, but I was really expecting something better than what we got here. Sure, there are a couple cool moments. There are a couple catchy moments on this record, okay? People are really loving the song Terrified for some reason, even though it's like a jumbled mess to my ears. Dance With Me is the best song on this record. It was one of the lead-off singles, one of the teasers. I really do like it. And I can also kind of vibe with Turpentine nowadays, but everything else on here, get it away from me. Huge disappointment. I gave this thing just a 1/4 of a star. Nothing special. Now, when I heard this next band was releasing a record this year, I was truly expecting it to be Record of the Year. Even though we have a little bit of beef, even though there's a little bit of friction and tension there, I was expecting this Drain record, Living Proof, to be at least half decent. But this is a thrashy mess all the way through. These guys only exist because of the hype of their live show, and they're resting on that, okay? They know that they're bringing people out because they are that crazy live. But sonically, on this record, this thing is just a mumbled jumble, all right? And they too start to play around with a little bit of melody on this one when they do the Good Good Things cover by the Descendants. But because of its style and because of its presentation, I couldn't give it 0 stars. Otherwise, I would have given it 0 stars if it wasn't for the stees dripping off these guys, all right? So I gave it a 1/4 of a thumb. Huge disappointment, but right now we're going to be talking about the biggest disappointment of the year. The record I went into with the highest expectations and got let down the absolute most. Now, this record that I'm about to talk about isn't the worst record on this list. It is just the biggest disappointment, okay? And if you've been following the channel, throughout this year. You know, I talked about those lead-off singles from Rancid as a really, really good thing. I loved them all. I was so hyped by all of these singles that they were putting out for Tomorrow Never Comes. Especially the song Tomorrow Never Comes. What a hell of a song. And when this record dropped, Mud, Blood, and Gold was the second track. I was like, yeah, we're off to the races. And then it just dove deep into Rancid Factory territory, all right? They just pressed Make Rancid Record into ChatGPT, and this is what came out most of the time, all right? It's okay. It's not the greatest stuff they've ever done. There are some slappers on here, of course. But because this is not a consistent experience, and because this falls so short from what Rancid is actually capable of, and from the lead-off singles, how hot and steamy they were, just came across like flat turds when sequenced into a track list like this. There are some highlights on here. Hearing all the voices of all these guys come together really does make for a good time if you're into Rancid. If you were a former Rancid fan, you're gonna get some good stuff off this record for sure. You're gonna be like, oh, the guys are doing the thing, that's so cute. But that's kind of where it ends for me. There's not any really all-timer songs on here. There aren't any classics on here. In 20 years, at the very least, you'll be like, oh, late Rancid wasn't really that great, but they have a couple rippers. Here, listen to Tomorrow Never Comes. The song, not the record. And there it is. Those are the most disappointing records of the year. They'll be chained up in the basement. I'll be throwing down gruel and shouting obscenities down the stairs at them for the rest of their lives. I don't know why I'm gonna be an abusive captor, but they're gonna love me by the end of it. In Minecraft, in a video game, of course. Alright, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. It was really nice of you. If you enjoyed this video, there's more videos over here. Okay, see you later. Bye for now.